The billionaire CEO who escaped arrest and fled Japan in a box. That's kind of interesting. Japan analysis?
You remember that time the CEO of Nissan escaped Japan inside a piece of luggage?
Carlos Ghosn fled house arrest.
Shocked the financial world, fled to Lebanon.
Fled to Lebanon in this trunk.
Did he just leave or did he flee?
Yeah, this French bozo literally dodged a life sentence by smuggling himself out of the country in a box.
That's crazy.
Everyone was like, whoa, dude, that's crazy, and forgot about it a week later. But that's not even the wackiest thing that happened here. There's a massive web of screw-ups, hijinks, and backstabbings involving the Japanese government, France, and even the suits at the top of Nissan. But it all started with some really bad decisions made in the age of the boomer.
Love that.
It's 1999, and Nissan is in big, big trouble. Like, bigger than Bill Clinton trouble. The company's stock price is crashing like it's hawk to a coin.
Poor
and they were now
Nissan!
2.2 trillion yen in debt. The management wasn't helping either. The best idea they had was to turn off the elevators and air conditioning in HQ just to keep the lights on. If they didn't get their act together, Nissan was about to face something scarier than Y2K. Bankruptcy. They needed a miracle. And that miracle came in the form of Carlos Ghosn. At the time, Ghosn was vice president of France's big car company Renault, and even though he looked like a nerdier version of Mr. Bean, in the industry he was more like Mr. Green. When things were on fire, companies sent Ghosn to put it out.
Okay.
In the 80s, the tire company Michelin was about to give up on their entire Brazilian operation. That was until they sent in Ghosn and his beautiful mustache.
He is 26?
He returned to the green within a year. Then came Renault, whose management was in trouble because they couldn't stop doing stuff like this.
If you are what you drive, imagine yourself as a Renault Encore. Expressively sporty in outlook, stylishly European.
That's a fucking ad. Holy cinema. Become the car. Wait, I want one now. It's also such an ugly car.
They hired Ghosn in 1997, and he saved them millions of dollars, and all he had to do was lay off 3,000 workers.
Oh, that's okay. Didn't
For
really fix
this,
the
he
ads.
earned the title Le Cost Cutter, or in English, the cost cutter.
Yeah, I got it.
Renault offered Nissan a deal they couldn't refuse. They would give a bunch of money for a measly 37% of Nissan. On top of that, Carlos Ghosn, a man who didn't even speak Japanese, would be the new boss of the whole company. Or
That's
else.
crazy.
Bankruptcy-bound Nissan signed the contract before the ink was even dry. I mean, their 2.2 trillion yen debt wasn't going to pay itself. So Big Daddy Ghosn marches into Yokohama and immediately goes to the production line. And the first thing he notices is that Nissan is releasing cars in America 18 months after they had launched in Japan. They'd spend millions hyping up the car at home, then deliver it to America once everyone had already forgotten about it. Absolute genius. Ghosn was like, can we not do that? And everyone told him it was impossible. So Ghosn gave his best Japanese engineers a week to come up with their solutions to this problem, and the best that he got was, we can delay the Japanese launch by a year, and then they'll only be 6 months apart. Now, I'm no expert, but I would guess Ghosn didn't like that answer very much.
I wonder why that problem was...
Ghosn also found out why Nissan was in so much debt. They owned $4 billion worth of shares in 1,394 other Japanese companies. This was the corporate equivalent of using Klarna to finance a burrito. This has got to be a mistake. Why? Well, Nissan was a keiretsu, and like every large company in Japan, owned a little bit of every other company. This was, apparently, to make sure no single company tried to rock the boat. So Nissan...
That's stupid. We need this. We sort of have this in a different way. Every company doesn't own each other, but everybody now owns every company. Like with this Japanese system, the incentive is not to compete so hard, not to drive prices down and not to innovate and kill your competitors because everyone owns each other. So it leads to stagnation. But we have a similar thing where the average person isn't picking to invest in Ford or GM. They own a little piece of both. Everybody owns a little piece of both. So real competition actually hurts them on net. It's an implicit collusion versus an explicit one.
Own shares in everything from normal things like their own suppliers all the way up to a supermarket chain and even some of their own competitors.
Big A starting his commie arc, it's absolutely nothing to do with communism. It literally has nothing to do with it. You know, I don't think you understand what I'm saying. I think you literally didn't hear what I was saying and then said.
After much thought, Ghosn came up with a brilliant strategy to save the company. Stop doing the dumb shit.
That's a good...
He immediately sold off 1,390 of 1,394 companies.
Okay.
Japan
In a
freaked out.
RuneScape market?
He sniffed out unproductive factories, shut them down, and fired their workers faster than someone who was known for firing people. Japan freaked out even more. The firing people meta hadn't come there yet. Gon started getting death threats, and protesters swarmed Nissan HQ
Hard to
like
do
it was
mass
the
layoffs
last
in
PS5
Japan.
at Walmart. But you know what? Gon's plan actually worked. In 2000, Nissan made a profit for the first time in 3 years. By 2001, they had nearly cut their debt in half. Le cost cutter had saved the companies.
Okay, he's ahead of the meta.
Carlos Ghosn, the guy who looked like Mr. Bean, was now the coolest man in the country. He won Japan's Father of the Year award, crowds cheered for him at baseball games, and Japanese women literally wanted to have his kids. Honestly, kudos, Carlos. That's pretty impressive.
That's crazy.
He even got a manga written about him called
crazy.
Carlos Ghosn Monogatari. So Ghosn was living it up. He wore more stylish suits, hung out with cooler friends, and got a younger wife with more expensive tastes. Of course, Nissan paid him well for saving the company. By 2008, he was making over $19 million per year, making him the highest paid man in Japan.
Wow.
But you know what else happened in 2008?
Nothing
The
bad.
stock market is now down
43%.
The Japanese people were pissed. They didn't crash the market, but now it was destroying their economy. They demanded a crackdown on corporate greed, and as a result, Japan passed a new law that required executives who made more than $1 million per year to disclose their income. Gon's $20 million salary would make Nissan look bad, so under pressure from the board,
funny, 'cause that's not
he
even
was
that
forced
much.
to take a 50%
See
pay
what I'm saying? Elon Musk just got a $30 billion pay package. We're talking about 20 million here. There's some guy fucking working AI in a basement at Meta who gets 20 million. Chump change.
and he was not happy about this. $10 million? How could anyone live off of that? Didn't Nissan know that he had obligations? Like this Marie Antoinette themed birthday party at Versailles.
Is there anything more on the nose than having a Marie Antoinette birthday party at Versailles? If you don't want to seem like an out-of-touch rich person, I can't imagine. Just don't do that particularly.
His vacations in Ibiza and the south of France. And how is he going to pay for this $100 million yacht? Gon started airing his discontent in
Such
public.
a tiny yacht.
Well, I'm going to shock you, but since we're off the record, I am not very well paid, actually, compared with the CEO of General Motors or Ferrari.
And he was serious. GM really was headhunting him to lead their company. And Nissan really wanted to keep him around. They even had this guy, Greg Kelly, whose job was basically just to keep Gon happy. Remember that for later. But Nissan's trust in Gon was faltering. By now, Gon was CEO of both Nissan and Renault at the same time, and he seemed distracted. He'd fly between Tokyo and Paris twice a month.
The Jack Dorsey. I'm CEO of Twitter and Square. Or Block, I guess is what it became. And I spent 95% of my time working at the other company, but I really do care about Twitter. I really do care. Dude, Jack Dorsey would spend 6 months out of the year with his phone turned off in Africa. On a silent retreat. Then he would come back and spend all his time working at Square, 5% at Twitter, and he would still be CEO and get full pay. It was insane.
Execs at both companies had to start scheduling meetings with him 3 weeks in advance. The cracks had started to show. In 2011, he made a massive mistake, falsely accusing 3 Renault employees of spying for China. Things really came to a head when rumors surfaced about a merger between Nissan and Renault. Nissan hated the idea of becoming French. Hell, the name Nissan literally means made in Japan. They might have looked past everything else Gon did, but not this. Nissan was a proud Japanese company. End of story. And Gon always said he would never merge the two companies.
Why don't you make a merger between the two companies and you don't, get one team, etc. It doesn't work. I cannot make one team of Japanese and French managing a company which would be neither Japanese nor French.
And yet you are.
See, this is what he sounds like. Anyways, as the years passed, he seemed to warm up to the idea of a merger.
Will Nissan and Renault be merged?
Nobody can answer this question.
Okay, the next question.
On November 18th, 2018.
It's the Trump when asked if he's going to pardon somebody. I never even thought about it. There's no answer. No, how could I know? Just say no. Let's just say no. I mean, I could do it. I have the power. I never thought about it.
Ghosn boarded his flight to Tokyo to discuss the merger with Nissan executives, but he would not arrive at this meeting. So Ghosn steps off his private jet at Haneda Airport, and he's greeted by a customs officer. Hi, are you Carlos Ghosn? Yes, I am. Do you not see my cool private jet with my cool license plate?
That's cool.
That is a very cool plane, sir. I'm glad you are here. You are under arrest. Ghosn is immediately sent to jail and charged with the crime of underreporting post-retirement remuneration. Japanese prosecutors allege that Nissan was going to pay him a large amount of money when he retired, and even though that was in the future, he failed to declare it as income now. That's it? That's like getting arrested for filing the wrong tax form.
Well, no, I see what they're doing. Nissan wants to pay him more. They can't do it because it publicly look bad. So they make a sneaky promise to give him a huge payout when he finally leaves. The incentive is totally there. I get what they would do that. Yeah, it's kind of like Otani, right? You know, that's that stuff where they backload all the pay so they can make it work now, and I get it.
But Ghosn was about to learn that Japan took his case very seriously. He was sent straight into solitary confinement with all the amenities. We're talking bright fluorescent lights 24/7, strip searches twice a day, and daily interrogation sessions that can be as long as 14 hours with no lawyers.
This is a more secure lockdown than we gave Jeffrey Epstein. This CEO who failed to disclose a slightly higher pay.
But at least there was one saving grace. Japan could only do this for 20 days before charging him. So as these 20 days of isolation and not being able to talk to anyone came to an end, Ghosn knew the prosecution would have to let him go. That is, unless they added a new charge, like for financial misconduct. Yes, through this one simple life hack, the Japanese cops would keep looping these 20-day detentions over and over to keep him in there for almost 4 months until he got out on bail.
Oh, damn.
This cost him over $13 million, and the conditions got so strict, he couldn't talk to anyone related to the case, including his own wife.
That's crazy.
Not only that, they had him under constant surveillance, cameras outside his home, police monitoring him 24/7. He swears they were even bugging his phone lines. Ghosn knew Japan was not playing around. By this point, not only the public and everyone he knew, even Nissan had turned against him.
This is the act which cannot be tolerated by the company.
If he lost his case, he could go to prison for the rest of his life. The same prison where he had just spent 23.5 hours per day alone in his own cell. The entire criminal system was stacked against him, and he needed a way out. Wait, did you hear that? It's Michael Taylor! Michael Taylor was basically a fixer. He was former U.S. Special Forces,
USA!
and he already had a long and dubious history as a security contractor in the Middle East. One day, Taylor got a mysterious phone call asking if he could help a certain wealthy individual who was in some legal trouble in Japan. I wonder who that could be. Taylor flies to Japan with his son and immediately calls up Ghosn.
Oh, hello, this is Carlos.
Taylor could hear the shower and radio on full blast in the background because Carlos was so paranoid of his house being bugged. Taylor assures Ghosn he knows what he's doing. In fact, he had done this once before when he got a reporter out of Afghanistan.
That's wild.
Slowly, Taylor gains Ghosn's confidence and he begins to lay out various intricate plans to sneak Ghosn out of Japan. A cargo ship to Korea, a forged Swedish passport, a charter boat full of Navy SEALs. But ultimately, Taylor finds an airport in Kansai with very lax security for private jets.
Okay.
So Taylor starts telling Ghosn his plan, and slowly, Carlos begins to believe. Eventually, he musters the courage to meet Taylor in person. So Ghosn puts on his disguise and sneaks out of his house. He's extremely paranoid that he's being followed, but he manages to make it all the way to the Grand Hyatt Hotel without being recognized. He heads up to room 933, Taylor's room. He opens the door and boom, there it is. His ticket out of Japan. A big black instrument box. Ghosn was going to get into this box and be carried onto a private jet. Ghosn is terrified, but Taylor tells him to just get in the box and see if he fits. Ghosn gets inside and notices the box is custom made for his height with holes for breathing. Ghosn starts to believe that this crazy plan might actually work. But then Taylor's like, well, we're all here. Why don't we just do it today? So they get on the bullet train at Shinagawa, and there's only a few rules. Don't take off your disguise, don't draw attention to yourself, and do not speak.
Yeah.
Once they get to
rules.
Kansai Airport, Ghosn gets in the box and is carried into the terminal. It was a holiday, so security was sparse that day. The final hurdle was the
Oh my God,
X-ray
yeah, how do they
machine.
do the X-ray
Taylor
machine?
tells the staff that the instruments in his box are too valuable to go through the scanner, and the guards actually fall for it.
Crazy. Wait, that's crazy. You could just have a huge big black box that gets completely unexamined. Why wouldn't they at least just open it? What a
Ghosn was
gambit.
loaded onto the plane in his box, and 12 hours later, he was back in Lebanon. The humble guy that Ghosn is, the very first thing he does is host a press conference to tell everyone that he's out.
As you can imagine, today is a very important day for me. I did not escape justice. I fled injustice.
Now, you might be wondering, why the hell did Ghosn run from a tiny charge of falsifying income? Why wouldn't he just stay in Japan and fight it? Smuggling yourself across the border in a box is not a very CEO-like thing to do, right? To understand, we got to talk about the case against him. Was he guilty or was he innocent? So when investigators searched Ghosn's house, they found this paper that was talking about the agreement he had with Nissan to pay him money when he retired to make up for the 50% pay cut he took. And that was incriminating, but it was just the tip of the iceberg. Once they started digging into his finances, they noticed a ton more sketchy stuff. Like, remember that Marie Antoinette themed birthday party at Versailles?
Sure.
Ghosn hosted that party on Nissan's dime,
Oh, of course
even
he
though
did.
none of them were invited. His family's private jet vacations all over the
Business
world,
expense.
these were logged as Nissan business trips. He even got his sister a cushy six-figure job at Nissan, even though nobody really knew what...
Six figures, $100,000. 750 grand job. Ghosn girl, that's good.
But
That's a W
how was
brother.
he able to spend so much of Nissan's money without anyone catching on? Well, it was a special process called Carlos's CEO Reserve. This was a little system that let him get around all the paperwork and send anyone he wanted any amount of money with only 3 signatures anytime. Authorities who looked into these
It's kind of like SBF with his parents, except that whole company was fake. So
payments were surprised by how many of them were going to this one car dealership in Oman. That's this country here. It all started when Ghosn had a little $20 million debt he couldn't pay off. Around the same time, Ghosn's friend Suhail Bawan just happened to get a $20 million loan from Nissan for expanding
That's lucky.
operations. Then, suddenly, a mysterious stranger helped pay off Ghosn's entire debt. Over the years, Ghosn would use this Omani infinite money glitch to help finance his yacht, renovations on his mansion, and even a $27 million injection into Shogun Investments, a venture capitalist fund ran by his son. Ghosn logged all of these expenses as
dude, being a rich French kid whose dad works in Japan and you start Shogun Investments, that's so embarrassing. That's some Lex Luthor shit. He's a real family man, though. He basically went to Japan and milked his company dry for the benefit of his own family.
But all of this wasn't enough for Ghosn. Remember this guy whose job it was to make Ghosn happy? Greg Kelly? Well, he managed to convince Nissan's board that a few of the dates on Ghosn's stock-based compensation needed to be tweaked by a few days. And as a result, Ghosn made off with an extra $1.3 million. How
about that?
And Kelly paid the price for this, actually. He was arrested on the same day as Ghosn. And once Ghosn fled Japan, the entire investigation came down on Kelly.
Yeah, they had to get somebody.
It was a slam dunk case. Over 3 years, hundreds of hours of trials in the Japanese legal system with a 99.4% conviction rate. Kelly stood no chance. And he was obviously found
You don't want to
not
absurdly
guilty.
high conviction.
How?
What? Excuse me?
Yes, Greg Kelly was found not guilty on 7 of 8 counts. His sentence was 6 months
He
probation.
clutched it.
Okay, but wait, what happened to all the damning evidence? Is Carlos Ghosn actually innocent?
Part 5.
Of the 8 charges against Greg Kelly for helping Ghosn conceal his income, he was only convicted for the year 2017. The judge found that there was insufficient evidence that anything illegal took place for all 7 of the other years they tried him on. So basically, they got him on one charge of negotiating Ghosn's package, which is a small offense. But to secure this conviction, executives at Nissan literally lured Greg Kelly from America to Japan, which took a lot of convincing because Greg Kelly was an old man with severe spine issues.
Also doesn't want to...
He was in intense pain all the time and could barely move. But Nissan still lured him to Japan on a private jet and had him arrested within hours.
That's crazy.
After this, they kept Kelly, a 63-year-old man with severe spine issues, in a jail cell for over a month.
Dude, it's funny. This jail cell in Japan is indistinguishable from Ariana's apartment when she worked at an internship there. I think this is nicer. This is nicer. This is the apartment she had. It was a tiny little place. I'll ask her. Hey, Beth, can you come here real quick? Do you remember that apartment you had in Japan when you worked at the internship?
Well, but that was a share house.
Do you think it was better or worse than this?
Well, it's a trick question because is this my own apartment? Because this is better. Obviously, the share house, there was like 8 other people in there.
That's what I'm saying. This is a jail cell in Japan.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, it looks
and it's
good.
nicer than your apartment.
Yeah, well, no, but it wasn't nicer than my actual apartment in Niigata. That was a nice one.
Well, it was nicer than the one I visited,
Yeah,
I'll tell you that.
I visited both, so.
That's funny.
They kept Kelly, a 63-year-old man with severe spine issues, in a jail cell for over a month, where he had to sleep on the floor and was forced to spend all day sitting in the corner of his cell in an L shape. When he finally got bail, his wife said he had lost so much weight and looked terrible. Kelly's entire trial took 3 years, but in the end, all he got was a 6-month suspended sentence. And Kelly wasn't the only victim of the Japanese legal system. Michael Taylor and his son were extradited from the US for their role in helping Gon escape, and their conditions were even worse.
Carlos's time in jail was a cakewalk compared to what we suffered. 15 consecutive days or more of solitary is considered torture. My son spent 13 months in solitary,
That's insane.
and I spent 17. You sleep on the floor, you eat on the floor, there's no heat, it's freezing, you get frostbite because you don't have shoes, you can't stay warm, it's impossible, and you're not allowed to exercise in your room. My attorneys came to me and told me my father was dying on his deathbed. I requested to make a phone call to him, and they denied my request. He died without me being able to say goodbye to him.
That's
By
crazy.
the time Michael Taylor was released, he had lost over 50 pounds. In 2020, the UN Human Rights Council on Arbitrary Detention concluded that Carlos Ghosn's human rights were violated by Japanese authorities. The point is, Japanese prosecutors seem to have a massive vendetta for everyone involved in this
it's probably
case.
just public opinion, right?
I think the straw that broke the camel's back and made him realize he had to flee in the box was, and this is one of the most insane things I've ever heard, as part of Ghosn's bail conditions, he wasn't allowed to talk to his wife or interact with her at all until the end of the trial. And this trial was expected to last for 7 years. Imagine not talking to your wife for 7 years. Isn't the Japanese legal system awesome?
Someone said that's a bad thing, like it's Facebook humor. Facebook quote tweet, wish the judge would give that to me.
Like, I don't want to get too deep into the prosecutorial misconduct here, but in Ghosn's case, they wouldn't let him access these 6,000 plus internal Nissan documents that could clear his name. And in Kelly's case, the judge literally refused to admit into evidence an internal Nissan memo where their own investigators said that it wasn't some sort of hidden salary agreement. They were just planning to pay Ghosn for consulting after he retired. So why did these Japanese prosecutors hate Ghosn so much that they were going this hard to get a conviction? Well, it's one word: merger. Everything comes back to the merger. No one in Japan wanted to see Nissan become a French company. So when the French government suddenly passed a law that granted itself even more control over Nissan, the Japanese government started panicking. If the merger had gone through, Nissan would effectively be controlled by Renault and its largest shareholder, the French government. But Ghosn's big secret was that he actually wanted the merger to happen, because it would finally put him in the billionaires club.
Sheesh! Sigma!
Japanese prosecutors and Nissan were working together. The investigation actually started at Nissan and was only brought to prosecutors after this guy, Harinada, got involved. Harinada was actually the guy who personally lured Greg Kelly to Japan. But do you know what's interesting? He was actually doing a lot of the same shady shit that Ghosn was. He only flipped on Ghosn in exchange for immunity. And even Nissan's next CEO, the one who gave the press conference calling out Ghosn, was later found to be doing some of the exact same things Ghosn was doing. And guess what?
just threw him
Neither
under the
him
bus.
nor Harinada spent a day in jail. So while Ghosn was certainly not innocent, a lot of what he was doing was common practice among executives at Nissan and other large Japanese companies. Like paying Ghosn as a consultant after he retires, that does sound a bit shady, right? Until you find out that 50% of large Japanese companies were doing that with their executives at the time. Nissan in particular had a history of poor governance, which is why Ghosn was able to move so much money around with so little scrutiny. The board knew all about Ghosn's shady slush fund. They just didn't want to do anything about it because they couldn't afford to lose him. And that fear has proven true. Ever since they ousted Ghosn, Nissan has been on a downward spiral with mounting debts and a failing alliance with Renault. They are in massive trouble right now. So if Nissan really did conspire to oust Ghosn, it completely backfired. And the true tragedy is, we'll never know exactly what happened here. Truth and justice are completely hopeless in a legal system mired in so much prosecutorial misconduct and outright abuse of prisoners. Lebanon will never extradite Ghosn, so he'll never see the inside of the courtroom,
France?
and we'll never get the full story. The story of Carlos Ghosn remains a highly controversial issue in Japan. Not only was his escape a national embarrassment, but it thrust their archaic medieval justice system into the worldwide spotlight. At the time, Japan's justice minister couldn't help but say on camera, Carlos Ghosn should prove his innocence, which is not exactly how a modern criminal justice system is supposed to work. Personally, after extensively researching both sides of the Ghosn case, it's clear to me that Carlos was an extremely competent businessman who genuinely cared about Nissan. Say what you want about him, but he stuck with Nissan even when taking a massive pay cut and even after being headhunted by GM. But on the other hand, he was also clearly obsessed with his own wealth. He had everything anyone could ever want, yet he was still meticulously counting his $999th million.
He met Trudeau?
I honestly cannot understand the mindset of someone like that. Interestingly, while public sentiment in Japan remains strong...
It was just a CEO who wanted to get paid a lot. He was apparently pretty good at making Nissan more profitable. He wanted to get paid a lot. Public pressure made it so he couldn't do that, so he found a shady way to still get paid a lot. Yeah, I don't think it's that crazy. And the Japanese government could have blocked the merger rather than engage in like this weird throw him in solitary for months, recycle charges. You could have just blocked the merger. That would be a better way to do it.
There are some positive signs. In a survey of 120 Japanese lawyers, 70% agreed with Ghosn's view that Japan's legal system is basically hostage justice. Ultimately, beyond Ghosn himself, the real moral of the story, the thing to take away from this video is that Japan's legal system is deeply flawed and urgently needs reform. Honestly, this case is so big and complicated, like 80% of what I researched didn't even make the final cut. Like, did you know Michael Taylor hates Carlos Ghosn now? So what I did is I made like a podcast style rant where I just go over the 10 or 20 most interesting facts that I couldn't cover here. It's completely free to watch. It's in the pinned comment and on the description.
Check it out!
On Patreon, but you don't have to sign in or pay. Check it out. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much to my patrons for making this whole YouTube career possible, and I'll see you next time.
I just need to say something. Like, this type of talk, shut up, bro. Yes, someone should have human rights. You know, just grab someone off the street and hold them in solitary on a crime they haven't proved yet. Obviously, just shut up, bro. Just, okay? Just obviously. And clearly there's a systemic problem where every company's doing it. So